City Skylines is a car-centric game, and that's okay. This is a video essay that aims to explore what this means, why it matters, and ultimately what we can do about it. I'm Yumble, and let's talk about it. I think a good first question to ask when discussing car-centricity is, what does car-centric really mean? And one of my favorite definitions that I've found means that the city plan is centered around automobile uses and connectivity, as opposed to transit or walkability or bikeability, or maybe even against people-designed cities. It means that the city has been designed for automobile uses and a road network that can support this. Especially of late, it seems that car-centric has become the dirty word of urban planners everywhere. Not without reason. Cars produce pollution, including air pollution and noise pollution. They're dangerous to one another as well as pedestrians and cyclists. They take up lots of space. When you design for automobiles, the surrounding space ends up being built much larger than pedestrians and cyclists require. There's all kinds of reasons to not design cities for cars. Now, with all these things in mind, what makes City Skylines car-centric? Right from the get-go, when you start a new default map in City Skylines, it presents you with a highway connection. So immediately, before you've built anything, you haven't built a city center, you haven't built the main pedestrian boulevard of the city, you're presented with an empty highway connection, and you're expected to build a city that way, right? So I say it starts with roads and forces you to immediately build roads by default, right? Without a doubt. Cars really seem to be the default mode of transit outside of walking. So if Sims can walk from one place to another, they will. It'll path them on sidewalks and paths, and even bike paths if you have the right DLC. Speaking of DLC, biking and certain transit options are not available without buying DLC. That's right, the base game does not include trams and certain other forms of transit, as well as biking and bike paths. So this is important when you're trying to build something realistic or some place that you'd want to live even. Maybe bikeability is important to you. Maybe walkability is important to you. City Skylines does not have these options by default. These are just a few examples that I picked, but you can already see how this is shaping up to be a very car-centric game that requires you to build roads to connect your city together. One thing I forgot to mention is that services also require roads. So ambulances, police cars, fire trucks, etc. Buildings cannot be built in spaces that are not roads. So just outright, you need to support vehicles to function in this game. The next logical question is, why is the game designed this way? And for that, we really have to look at the history of the development of the game, including Colossal Order, who is the developer, and Paradox, who is the publisher of the game. So Colossal Order previously was known for developing transit games called Cities in Motion. I haven't played these titles, but apparently it focuses on pre-built cities, and you then solve the problems, the congestion in the city, by focusing on transit-based solutions, which is pretty cool. That's kind of almost the opposite of what I'm talking about here. Rather than car-centricity, we're trying to get people out of cars into transit, and that's great. They realized with this traffic system, kind of a realistic depiction of traffic flow and congestion in cities, that they could take this engine that they've built, this traffic system, and convert it into a city builder. I'm thankful they did. I'm real thankful they did, believe me. Initially, when they pitched it to their publisher, Paradox, this is all according to the Wikipedia page, Paradox didn't like what they proposed. What they wanted to do initially was basically a bureaucracy simulator or a red tape simulator where you have to pass policies and do all of these actual city planning things, which sound tremendously boring to me. A game about passing policies, that is another game entirely from what we have in City Skylines, which is a hands-on city building and simulator experience. They were trying to build the bureaucracy simulator of City Skylines, doing paperwork and stuff, it seems. By the time Sim City came out, Paradox was ready to greenlight it, but they wanted it to be focused more on the city building aspect rather than the bureaucracy aspect, right? Rather than the regulation aspect. So right from Wikipedia, it says, to help achieve this goal, the creators decided to simulate citizens navigating the city's roads and transit systems to make the effects of road design and transit congestion a factor in city design. In this, they found that the growth and success of a city was fundamentally tied to how well the road system was laid out. I would tend to agree with this statement in broad terms. I would say that the quality of a city can often be defined by how well it moves its citizens around and the options that they have for getting to their destinations. So I think that their heart was very much in the right place. There may have been an overemphasis on the road system portion of this mission statement, though. Personally, I would attribute most of the success of the game to the traffic simulator. I think that building the city is very fun, and laying out roads and deciding where buildings go, it's all very, very fun to do. But I truly believe the thing that keeps people coming back is the traffic simulator, and how the traffic simulator can be influenced by transit, walkability, bikeability. I think that that is the core of the entire experience and is really the generator of virtually all the success of the game. And the transit simulator is also responsible for all of the repeat players, all of the people that keep coming back to the game year in and year out. As I sit here, it is 2022. City Skylines has been out for 7 years, and nothing has come close to dethroning it. I truly think that that is all due to the work that Colossal Order did in developing this traffic simulator. So now we know how car-centricity fits into the development of City Skylines, but where do I fit in all of this? Many of you have probably been following my growth on YouTube for the last few years within the City Skylines community. I'm mostly known for building junctions and interchanges and intersections, basically connecting roads together to reduce conflict in different, what I would call fun and creative ways, and ultimately showing people how to do it themselves. I've found it really fun to make these tutorials, but the trouble is, which I didn't realize going into this, is that there's also a large urban planning sect of YouTube, and they have cracked the code. They have found what I would describe as the low-hanging fruit of saying cars are bad. Like, it's really, really easy to start an urban planning channel these days. I would recommend you go try it. All you have to do is take some clips of traffic and say, cars are bad, look how bad they are, look how much they pollute, look how loud they are, look how much space they take up, pedestrians are good. Like, that's really easy, and you can make that video over and over and over and use the word strode, and people will love you for it, I promise. My problem is, I'm over here playing my video game, putting some roads together, making cars move, and people come over and they confuse that with me actually believing that what I'm building is the best solution all the time. So I've been accused of being a car apologist. I've been told that my solutions are car-centric, that my build is bad and I should feel bad. Whatever the case may be, I am playing this game for fun, and I'm trying to learn how to build different things that are used in the real world, and maybe some stuff that's not used in the real world. But the fans of urban planning channels like to come over and confuse that with me being like a car demon spawn who is out to destroy the world and implement all of my solutions all over the place, when really I feel I'm just a guy who's playing video games, who has a decent way of explaining things to an audience who wants to learn how to do those things. So let's not get it twisted. With all these critiques in mind, rarely am I ever asked how I feel about these things, like in real life. So when I put up a junction on YouTube and show you how to build it, what I'm doing is expressing something in the game that's maybe a little bit more advanced and a bit more interesting perhaps. But in real life, I am very much an advocate for transit and walkability and bikeability. My girlfriend can attest to this. She's heard me late at night, I'll just bust something out like, I wish there was a metro that came to our area for this reason, and that reason. Or things like, why are they widening the highway again? Why are they increasing the size of that interchange? It drives me insane. It drives me nuts. And City Skylines has given me the language to express that and an eye to observe that and understand why things are the way they are in the place that I live. I'm an American. I was born here. I was raised here. I've lived in several different places, and yes, we do have a big car culture here. Largely, our city design is car-centric, especially after the advent of the automobile, obviously. We kind of killed the commuter train in a lot of places. We don't do trams very well. Our bus systems are not that beefy, and many of us are expected to own cars. I'm originally from northern New Hampshire, which is a car-centric place by reason of they're too broke and small to have transit. In the Great North Woods of New Hampshire, there's no transit. It just doesn't exist. It's just not there. So everybody owns a car. With that said, the density is so low that you can own a car and drive around, and the everything is still very, very clean. There's not many cars, though we all own cars up there. There's not very many. From that point, I didn't even realize that car centricity was a thing in New Hampshire. So then I moved to Northern Virginia, where I live today. I live right outside of Washington, D.C., the U.S. capital, and I see these roads getting widened, and I see this severe lack of transit and this serious car dependency, which we all suffer from every day. Everyone's wondering, why am I stuck in traffic? But it's harder to say, why am I traffic? I am traffic right now. I'm in traffic. I'm being traffic. We're all traffic together. Why is it this way? There's a metro stop a few miles from me where if they extended it along the highway, instead of widening the highway, they would reduce the need for capacity of the highway by massive percentages. I'm quite convinced. Like, if you get the metro out here, all the commuters that are going into the city would have a really great time and stay off the roads. I feel that I'm in the middle of the fight, and I am something of a victim of the fight as well, while simultaneously being blamed as a proponent of the enemy, which is a really bizarre feeling. I just wanted to express my history and how I fit into all of this, and how City Skylines actually educated me on the terminology surrounding this and just gave me the language that I need to express these ideas and even be a part of the conversation that I didn't even know people were having. I think these ideas are what make a car-centric game okay. The game isn't actually advocating that more cars are good. What you observe in City Skylines is that you immediately get traffic problems if you mismanage your roads and you don't use transit and bikeability and walkability to supplement these things. You find out very, very quickly that your city backs up entirely and becomes one big parking lot in and of itself. Along with learning that this is the problem and that transit and walkability and bikeability are the solution, you also learn this terminology. You learn about interchanges. You learn about crossings. You learn about different elements of traffic management. You learn about why roads can be bad or why large roads can be bad. You can learn about all of these things in the game, along with noise pollution and pollution, air pollution, ground pollution, water pollution, etc. It gives you a framework and points out all of these things that not all of us think to observe. When you're living in something like I am, it's really hard to point at it and say car-centric and call it what it is. When you're living in Northern Virginia, you are immersed in it, you are surrounded by it, and I didn't really know or care until I started playing City Skylines. And I think that that's really important, and I think that that totally justifies the car-centric design of the game. I don't think that it should be reduced into some city planning game that is bureaucracy-based or politics-based. I do not think that the Sims should get to tell you anything, really, other than chirper. I think the game is really great how it is, and I've heard voices that want to contradict that and say that, maybe imply that they could design a better city planning game, and maybe they could, but I don't think that the recipe I've heard described sounds like a very good city building game. In that, it sounds really, really unfun. When compared to City Skylines with its really robust traffic simulator, which is also very, very fun. I really think that that's the core of the whole thing, and to de-emphasize the traffic simulator would be a huge mistake on the part of a game developer. With all this in mind, what can we do about the car centricity of city skylines? Right off the bat, I'd say you can use pedestrian paths to reduce the Sims walking distance. You can also get bike paths and bike roads in the After Dark DLC. Sims will bike incredibly far, make no mistake. I also recommend making use of public transit and form a robust network that counteracts the effects of cars. You can also make car traffic take a longer route than more direct biking and walking paths. Then Sims will be more likely to select biking and walking instead of creating a car. Mods also give you a lot of flexibility when trying to reduce the amount of cars on the road. You can ban cars on a certain road, making it a pedestrian space. You can use custom traffic lights to stop traffic and allow pedestrians and cyclists to cross, which is actually good for vehicles as well as pedestrians and cyclists. You can also start your city from a train station, harbor, or airport instead of a highway. Sims will absolutely move in without the use of a car. Everyone, thank you so much for hanging out and letting me talk about the car-centric nature of city skylines and why that's okay. I really hope that we have some productive discussion within the community and within the comments on this one. Also, feel free to subscribe here. I make a couple YouTube videos a week. Definitely follow me over on Twitch if you want to talk about it live. We can do that. We also have a Discord server where we're discussing all kinds of things, cities related all the time. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out. I've been Yumble. I'll see you in the next stream or the next video. Also, roundabouts are a car-centric solution. I will not budge on this. Roundabouts are car-centric. They are not for pedestrians. They are not good for cyclists. They are good for cars.